Hello everyone. I bought this cool thing that I can put my phone on like a standard, so now I don't have to hold it anymore. If I want to film on in a random place, I can just move my hands. Woo. So anyway, I wanted to talk about living for the future, and I think that it's kind of easy to do that, to start kind of living for the future, because there are just a lot of moments in life that we don't like. For example, you might work too much and you hate it, and you might think to yourself like, well, one day maybe I'll work less, or maybe I will retire, and then that's something to look forward to, and then I'll be happier. And or something that I used to tell myself, like when I was studying. I was studying full time, and I hated. I mean, so at some point I started hating it. I started thinking like it's too much and I want more free time, and I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And I just hated it, and I just started living for a future. And I think I did the same thing when I used to be in high school. I used to tell myself during the day when I was in school, I hated it. And I would tell myself, like, I'll only have to endure the suffering until I'm home again, and then I can be happy. Kind of like that. I think it's kind of, a, in a way, it's a coping mechanism, right? It's a trick for our mind to trick ourselves into thinking, like, you can handle it now because there's something else in the future to live for, basically, to wait for, that's better. There's hope. But I just wanted to give some advice when it comes to this, because I drastically changed how I lived from compared to when I was like a teenager and like early 20s up until now, the recent few years. I live differently, and I have to say it feels a lot better, and I'm a lot happier living like that. And it's like not living for the future. I'm 26 now, soon to be 27, and I want to recommend it to everyone. Not living for the future, because I think there are a lot of downsides to it. Because you might think like, oh, if the future is soon, it's not that bad. Like, if it's like you're at school, life sucks, and you're like, I just need to wait till I get home, then you might think you'll be happy when you get home. But you know what it is? It gets worse when you're used to this approach, because you might have this on a day, but like when you look at your future, you might just think like, okay, actually I hate my weeks, the fact that I have to go to school for 5 days, and that I don't have vacation, or that I don't have my dream job, and I hate it. And it's kind of tempting you to accept being sad, thinking that, okay, maybe, in a few years when I'm done with school, I'll finally be happy, something like that. And at the same time, when you get home and you live like this, you're just gonna dread the next day again, because you know that once you're there, once you're at school, you're gonna be unhappy again. You're gonna feel bad again because you allow it. And of course, it's not easy to change how you feel about it. But recently, I've taught myself to change how I look at things, and trying to be happy at all times. Trying doesn't mean that you're gonna succeed at first, but in my experience, it gets easier over time when you practice this. You find ways, you find so many small ways to be happier day by day, and then over time, it becomes like a lifestyle, and you feel happier in general. At least that's what I experienced. You know, you don't have to take this advice, obviously, but that's just what I wanted to talk about in this video because it's something very important for me personally that I learned in the recent years. Um, and I think it made my life a lot better. So, because I used to have this thing where I ended up with so many regrets, you know, because I felt like I've wasted days. I've wasted so much time being sad, you know, thinking about the future, like thinking I hate this day. I want it to end. I want this to end. I'm waiting till a better time to be happy. Not just not living, not being happy at all, and thinking that that's a okay way to live as long as sometime in the future it's gonna be better, you know. I just ended up with many regrets, thinking things like I wasted this year or something. Like I wasted it because I wasn't happy, you know. Like I think you can end up with many regrets. Especially sometimes people say things like, well, I hate my job, but I'll be happy once I'm retired. Then that's even the worst, you know, when I hear people say that. Especially when they're young, of course, you know. I mean, when you're close to retirement, it's okay to look forward to it. But when you're still young, it's like so bad when people say, like, oh, life sucks, but at least at some point I'll have my retirement. Because when you're retired, you're old and you know, you're gonna waste so many years being unhappy if you wait for it. Just wait for it, you know? And you don't even know if you'll still be alive by then. Imagine if you died before then, and you'll just think, like, well, that sucks. I never got to be happy, you know? Not really. Because I was thinking, you know, I'll be happy when I'm retired. I'm waiting for it. Anyhow, yeah. And it's something that we are also kind of taught because people tell us like suffering is normal, you know, life isn't always fun. And that's kind of something I grew up with, not necessarily from my parents, but just from our entire culture. And it's changing a bit now. I feel like people are not saying it as much anymore, or maybe it was just high school. I don't know. I know teachers were always very negative at my high school. Always a reason to say things like, yeah, you need to suffer and happiness is not for children, you know. They didn't say that, but it kind of came down to that. They didn't want us to be happy, I think. But anyway, I hope you have, if anyone goes to school, I hope you have better teachers than me. Anyway, I used to have much better teachers in university, by the way. It was kind of stupid because, you know, how at high school sometimes they would tell you, like, oh, at university everything is gonna be so much harder and so much more serious. You need to be much better when you go to university. And then when I came there, the teachers were so much nicer and relaxed, and they treated you like you were an equal for the first time, and everything was better. So that was weird. But yeah, anyway, I'm like drifting off from the subject. So first of all, I'm thinking, I used to have regrets, and I don't like that feeling of having regrets. I don't really want to live a day that I regret in the end because I hated that day or something, and I wasn't even trying to be happy. And I want to live every day like it's my last day, basically, you know. And I'm not trying to say like taking stupid risks, but I'm trying to say like just enjoying life every day, every single day. I try to find a reason to be happy, even if it's something small, very small. Like, I don't know, I had a good conversation with someone, or I met a nice stranger, or my dog did something funny, or I saw a beautiful flower, or just stupid little things. But I want every day to have something nice to be happy about, you know? Because also something that I'm thinking is that actually there are so many ways to be happy that I realize now that I didn't see when I was younger because I just wasn't looking for it. I think that matters because I didn't think it was necessary. I thought I just gotta wait, think about the future, find motivation for that. So it's like you train yourself to think that you don't need to look for anything to be happy about. You don't need to try to change your habits to be happier, right? It's like you're not even trying. So I think it's nice now that I'm trying. It feels a lot better because when I feel like I'm suffering or I'm hating what I'm doing or experiencing, I immediately try to find a way out because I tell myself, at least I have to try to be happy. And I can't live for some kind of future goal or thing. I have to try to find a way. So it changes my habits many times in good ways because then you start realizing, okay, actually there are many things to be happier, but I just didn't even look for it. Like, for example, I hate doing the dishes, like I guess a lot of people probably do. What do I do now? I usually just put on music or a podcast or a YouTube video, something to listen to while doing it. And then it's not even that boring anymore, sometimes it's even fun. Stuff like that. Like, you just need to think of a solution. How do I make myself happier, feel better in this moment? Like, when I was at school, I realized I used to try to conform to people's expectations a lot. Like, kind of being a people pleaser, too much. Being too afraid of what people thought of me and changing my behavior according to what they expect of me. And that was exhausting. So now, when I realized that it's exhausting, I would just think to myself, just be yourself then. Why expend energy on this? Just be yourself. Who cares what other people think, right? And then if I am being myself, I'm a lot happier. These things just, are you even trying to be happy, Or when you have free time, don't waste it. Don't think like, I have to do what I need to do. Like, think, what do I really, really want to do right now? There are so many ways to try to be happier consciously. Anyway, I hope you get the point. So just, that's one thing. And then the third thing is, I feel like I used to have this thing where I've heard other people say it, like, when I reach this certain future that I was thinking about, usually I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. Because once you're there, you realize that there are other problems that you didn't realize that, yeah, even though life is maybe better in a certain... That's my dog. Hey, Zoe. Can I film her? Yeah, I'm filming. She's like, who are you talking to? Probably. Can you see her? Look at the camera. Yeah. Anyway, how do I put this thing back in? So, what was I saying? Because even if your life is better in a certain aspect, in other aspects, it's probably not better, and there are still things to worry about. There's still things to be disappointed about, and there's always something you can feel bad about. And the problem is, when you live so long accepting suffering, you really start to get used to it. And I felt like it was almost really difficult to actually be happy because it even feels unnatural, and it almost feels like it's not real, because I'm just so not used to actually being happy, and because you're just used to not looking at the bright side of things and accepting feeling bad. It's just a thing that you get used to. So it's more difficult to get out of it, even when you reach the future, because it's so easy to see the negatives that are still around. At least I had that experience, and it's easy to think like, okay, yeah, I'm done with school, but actually university is also stressful, something like that, actually there's other bad stuff going on. In the end, there's always something you can worry about. Also, I don't know if anyone watched my anxiety video, but in that video I explained that I don't worry anymore. Maybe it's good to also mention that. Ever since, I made that video and around that time, I don't worry anymore, as in I don't worry. And when I feel worried, I tell myself, like, what are you doing? Don't, because worrying, I think this is kind of a different topic, but worrying doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help you at all. It doesn't help the problem. It doesn't help anything. It's just, it's useless. So if anyone is thinking about worrying about things, you can train yourself to stop doing that. Trying to figure out problems, that's totally fine. That's normal. That's part of life, trying to figure out solutions to problems. But worrying is like actually feeling anxious, feeling bad and scared and like thinking that, this thing is gonna go wrong and it will ruin my life. Like this overthinking, it's useless. It's, because if something bad happens, worrying is not gonna change it. It's so useless. Being anxious about what people are gonna think of you, also useless. I used to have social anxiety. It also involves worrying about what people think of you. Useless. It doesn't help you. Just think, I don't care if I mess up. Who cares if I mess up? If I mess up, then so be it, and I'll find a solution. But worrying beforehand, like, that's not gonna fix anything. You always need to stay calm. Anyway, if you struggle with this, I would recommend my older video, which is a bit outdated because I've learned a lot more about anxiety. But when it comes to the worrying thing, I think it's a good video. So anyhow, yeah, I think you can kind of get stuck in this negative mindset because you waited so long that you're just stuck being unhappy, kind of. I used to experience that, and so nowadays I try to be happy every single day. And when you start trying for years, then you find so many like quick solutions. You find so many random solutions to just feel better, Part of it is also self-love. I can recommend my other video for that. Because I think self-love is also just allowing yourself to feel happy, thinking that you deserve it and you deserve to feel happy also helps. Because when you feel like, no, I hate myself, I fucked up, I deserve to suffer, that kind of mindset doesn't help in being happy, because you're like going to punish yourself when you do something wrong because you think you don't deserve to be happy. Like, of course that doesn't help. So I think self-love also helps a lot in being happy. I think if you're really stuck in a situation that you really don't like for example, you really don't like your job, it's better to try and find a solution and really, really work on finding a solution instead of accepting the situation. And if you really, really can't get out, then at least try to find things to be happy about. And it's not about fake happiness. It's just about kind of changing your habits and what you pay attention to to really think about what makes me happy and focus on those things and allow yourself to do the things that make you happy, and instead of accepting this suffering. Try to minimize the suffering, and waiting for a future is not an excuse. It's not an excuse to be unhappy. It's, in my experience, it just makes everything worse. Part of it is also try to live your dreams. Don't wait, Even if you just make a small beginning, like try it. Try to live your dreams right now, Don't find an excuse to wait. At least that's what I would say. So that's what I've been doing lately. And that's all I want to say about this. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.